immediately. We see it in the ad account. 50% of their meta attributed revenue is from returning customers, and they're not set up to truly focus on acquisitions.
What is the lowest NCAC that I can have? What I always say is like, what is the NCAC that you can actually afford? Changing this allows you to afford more NCAC. How many people are repeatedly purchasing and contributing to your bottom line in terms of a contribution bottom line versus your OPEX? So like if this is negative, I think lights go off for our founders to be like, okay, something needs to change.
I talk to CEOs, founders, investors of 7, 8-figure brands, and they're like, yeah, I don't even know what my marketing team's talking about. These guys are looking at the financials, and the marketing team is just talking about CPMs and click-through rates and all these metrics just to sound, smart. At the end of the day, this is a business.
I would like to dive a little bit deeper on the P&L side of like how to actually read a P&L, how to categorize a P&L, how to organize a P&L. And Pat, maybe even you jumping in of you doing a lot of these audits of brands and these audit calls of how you're reading a P&L to actually reflect action items and build a roadmap to success.
Every single line item in a P&L is important because if it's tied to a dollar, it's important. You should pay attention to it. But when I talk about importance, I mean about action driven. So what I said is you need to set your P&L up for success to be readable and then to be actionable. The first thing is cash versus accrual. I think we talked about that. So making sure you are understanding like the volatility of a P&L. If it's on cash and it is again, very volatile cash basis where you pay a lot of COGS up front and then maybe not for a couple months, I would change it so it's more readable. Cost of delivery, again, this is everything that goes into fulfilling an item. So cost of delivery, fulfillment, pick and pack fees, merchant processing fees, shipping. This is probably like the most common that we see in all the e-com brands that we work with. I wish I had another P&L that was actually given to us by our brand. Probably shouldn't actually show that, but it would be cool to show you how you can go from something a little bit more complex into this. It's pretty simple, and Maverick does this for us. It's a very smart tool that we have trained over time by doing a lot of this by hand. So it actually does it for us, and obviously I can change some things if it is incorrect. Cost of delivery, percentage bucket-wise, anything below 40% is relatively good. So this is why I said we had some wiggle room, I think, to optimize here. It kind of depends on high ticket versus low ticket, like what niche you're in. It kind of depends, but I would say like 20 to 40% is great, 40% a little bit on the higher end. If you could get below that, all that's going to do is just add your acquisition padding, right? So you can acquire colder customers, you can spend more, and it's going to relatively help. And I don't think people talk about this enough. In maybe the last podcast that we were together, I talked about how clients come to us all the time and they say, I want my NCAC to be this, or what is the lowest NCAC that I can have? And what I always say is like, what is the NCAC that you can actually afford? Changing this allows you to afford more NCAC. So like, how can you make something of the same value, very valuable, cheaper, and deliver it cheaper? Not a lot of people think about that. And if you're discounting heavy, that's going to eat into this. If you have obviously high shipping and all that stuff, it's going to eat into that. Marketing expenses, it's obviously a lot of what we control. This is your ad spend. This is our fees. This is platform fees. So this is everything that goes into marketing, and we use this to use for new customer contribution margin. And then OPEX obviously is OPEX. So anything outside of all that that's an expense is going to generally go into OPEX. What I'm reading here though too as well, and again, this isn't just a P&L because you don't get any of this on a P&L, right? We just put this here so you can visualize where the revenue is coming from very quickly and not have to like bounce around or run a Shopify report. I just want to see how much money they made and like what bucket it came from. Is this someone who's been here before, or is this a brand new customer that we put an ad in front of their face and they came over? And like, what are they buying? This is a brand who has been running like pretty much the same offer on the front facing side for, maybe as long as they've been in business. But what I'm looking at is net AOV. So what is the average order value for all the new customers? Is the new customers going up? Is it going down? AMER. So AMER is new revenue over your marketing expenses. This is a very healthy AMER in my perspective for this business and where their niche is. So this is, for every dollar that you're spending on marketing, what is the amount of new revenue coming in? And this is something I think maybe Pat, you can talk to, when you do your audits on brands and stuff. I'd be curious, honestly, to see if they even use AMER as like a growth metric or a growth forecast, and like kind of what you're seeing on your side of sales, Pat.
AMER is, and that's kind of the issue, is that immediately we see it in the ad account where 50% of their meta attributed revenue is from returning customers. And so they're not set up to truly focus on acquisition. So they're still stuck in the weeds of the in-platform data. So that in turn, when they usually run the AMER, they come to find out that maybe they're spending a lot more because they're just using their ad spend for returning customers. So that's immediate. That's like one of the most common things we see in the audit process, which then leads to them not knowing their AMER or having a very poor AMER because of that.
That's something we look at every day. We look at daily AMER for all of our accounts. It's a very quick data point to just understand health for growth, and how efficient our marketing is being spent, and making sure like exclusions are actually being had, because we all know that you can have the hardest exclusions on Meta, but Meta will still somehow figure out a way to sell to an existing customer. And so you're able to find a little bit of that bleed too in your daily AMER tracking too as well. If there's no questions there, I think I talked about this a little bit earlier, but the biggest thing on returning customers, and like kind of like the biggest unlock, is understanding how much contribution margin is like staying around. So like how many people are repeatedly purchasing and contributing to your bottom line in terms of a contribution bottom line, versus your OpEx. So like if this is negative, like I said, that's really where like I think lights go off for our founders to be like, okay, something needs to change. I either need to lower OpEx or I need to get people to spend more money when they're returning, so I can have margin to invest into growth. This is negative. It makes it a very hard conversation to invest into growth, but I think it's a really big unlock for our brands. And again, like P&L, it's past data, right? The point is to like understand health, understand the business, and then be able to create a plan off of this. It's not like the one thing, but it kind of tells the entire story. And we just use this so we can make the best educated guess for the forecast. Kenny, any questions based off that or anything I went into?
Yeah, let me know like action steps. So, Pat, for example, you're saying people don't even know their AMER or their new customer data. They don't know any of this stuff. If we explain to someone, hey, your AMER, you're actually running all your ads to returning customers, etc. What is the fix that we actually do? Like, what are the first steps that it tells the team, hey, we need to do XYZ in the ad account. We need to do XYZ for creative. We need to do XYZ. What actual action steps do you take and execute based off of that data that we get?
First thing is we add those exclusions, and it looks ugly more than it looks sexy, to be honest, because you think you're acquiring customers at, let's say, $30, and we add the exclusions and it jumps to double. But what you're really doing now is you're actually now getting a baseline of what it costs to acquire new customers on, let's just say, Meta. So it gets ugly before it gets better. And this is where like it's hard to trust the data in like the ad platform account. And so this is why we just take marketing spend over NCAC in Shopify, because that's the realest NCAC that anyone can ever calculate. A heavy factor that plays a huge role in influencing AMER, as we all know, is the offer. But I don't think people go into the specifics of like the actual offer economics for growth. And so what I was alluding to in the P&L, a cost of delivery perspective from a P&L, we also look at that for a new customer acquisition offer. So this is just like an offer sheet here. We use to create an offer that dynamically pulls from Shopify. So you can have unit price, COGS, all those things pulled in here. And you can even see here that we have like some targets that we use internally to set up like a really good offer. So you can see total COD here, cost of delivery, 25 to 40%. And then based off of this, like for example, let me just add a manual line item. I'm going to say protein. And let's say this is a $60 protein, $650 protein. And this costs us, let's say this is like super unreasonable. Protein's crazy price now. It costs us $10 to make. Promo offer, let's say they get $3 off their first purchase. The cost of goods sold is already there. Shipping and receiving, let's say pick and pack fees are often, $3. And then transaction fees, their normal Stripe fees, whatever, 2.9%. Labor, this is shipping and receiving. So if they get like free shipping and we are eating that cost, we want to see this on our offer. That's something that's super overlooked. And we see people's P&Ls and their shipping costs are like 60 grand. And it was never being accounted for. And people are like, why is my bottom line so dry? So let's say they're not paying for shipping for free here and the customer's paying for shipping at cost. This would be $0 because they're not eating it. Labor pick and pack fee, let's say this is the $3, it's 5%. And then return rate. So we're taking their entire return rate over their past year and then we're averaging out what that looks like for new customers. So let's just say it's 2%. So it's looking pretty healthy. Total cost of delivery with everything involved, $18, 31%. Again, most people just be like, oh, my COGS are this, but they don't realize that 50% of their COD is coming from things outside of that. So what we're seeing here is gross margin is about 68.4%. We have a lot of people that they want to be first purchase profitable. And they say, I need to make $10 on every purchase. I need to make $15 on every purchase. And what we do, we don't use feelings here. We use data, and we say, is this possible? Okay, you want to make $10 on every purchase. Let's say our net profit target is $10 on every purchase. That means our target CAC is going to be $31.06. Our AMER is 51%, which this is just flipped on how it is on the P&L. So this is about like a 2x AMER. Our NCAC ROAS, so this is if we were looking in and out account, just return on ad spend, what would that look like? 1.95. But something with this brand though, and this is why this is not an offer that I would ever run, is because their actual CAC on their last 90 days is 97.47. So they have a higher ticket item and a higher ticket offer that they're running. So this offer would probably never work, because to ask of a third of what their average CAC for the rolling 90 days would be pretty difficult. Not saying it couldn't work, it would just be pretty hard. And that's exactly what this is meant to do. So we run through this with all of our founders and all of our partners so they can just understand how all this is working and how scale works. It's a mathematical equation. And then after the mathematical equation works, it's our job to be creative and move the puzzle pieces to make this work too as well. And then even beyond there, this is what it takes to win, right? So you can see here our historical CPOC, which is this cost per outbound click on ads. This is actually 42 cents. And so the required conversion rate to hit this target CAC is 1.4. What's crazy is if an ad account is normally $1.50, which is honestly a decent standard, a rule of thumb that I would kind of go off of for an ad account, the required conversion rate would be 4.8. That's pretty high, especially for this brand. That's not feasible at this stage. So all this is doing is it's using logic with creativity to have us make the best offer possible for NCAC to your question, to increase AMER so we can have a higher efficiency for generating new revenue based off of this ad spend.
Why should people be excited about this? And, what does it change for when we're talking to prospects and future partners?
Yeah, I think marketers can be professional bullshitters. I think that's the reality of it. I think I see that in internal organizations. I see that in the agency space. And when their focus is purely on retaining their job or retaining you as a client, they're going to just start they use data, but they cherry pick data to make it look like, oh, things are progressing and things are moving. And so what we've done is we flipped it on its head and we said, hey, we're going to give us complete transparency to the financials. You're also going to you're going to have complete transparency as well. And let's play this on hard mode and let's set that expectation at the beginning so that they know what we're moving towards, right? So the biggest issue with agency relationships is that the expectations are not aligned, and that leads to, clients getting mad. When I tell them, when I run through the audit and I run through the forecast and I focus on these numbers and say, here's what we're going to do to focus on these real numbers, which actually drives to dollars in their bank account, that gets them excited because no one's going that deep. And we can also really tie the value of our services and what we do to real financial outcomes, where we aren't a deliverables agency. It's not based upon our hours. Because we have all this knowledge and info, we can focus on the right actions to get them to where they need to be. And so that's been a huge development. Obviously, we've been shifting in this direction, but with Maverick, it allows us to kind of do that work up front so that they have the right expectations, we're doing the right actions, we have complete visibility. And that's what most of these people I talk to, I talk to CEOs, founders, investors of 7, 8-figure brands, and they're like, yeah, I don't even know what my marketing team's talking about. These guys are looking at the financials and the marketing team is just talking about CPMs and click-through rates and ROAS and all these metrics just to sound, smart. And at the end of the day, this is a business. So if we align ourselves with the most important thing that matters, which is their P&L, they get excited about that. So we have 2 ways of working with us. If you're under $100,000 a month, we have our Forge consulting offer. That's where we work one-on-one. If you're not quite ready to work with us and have us do all the work for you, this is a lot of the consulting that we do. And we start with the P&L side. So if you're under $100,000 a month, wherever you're watching this, you can probably see a link to join that. If you're doing over $3 million, $5 million a year, you want us to implement this and then build out all the infrastructure to actually decrease your NCAC, increase your lifetime gross profit, etc. That's our core scope of work. We'll leave a link down below. So booking a call, we'll run the full audit for free. We'll run the financials, and at the very least, you'll walk away with some clarity. So click the link down below if you're interested in that.